Good morning, YouTube. We're going to have a conversation with Marcus. If you remember, his GT500 was on consignment with Alpha Motive and it was sold and he never got paid and all this weird stuff. He's got a bunch of updates for us, so we're going to do a video call with him. It's still crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
All right, everyone. This is Marcus again, and if you remember, so his Mustang GT500 was sold through Alpha Motive on consignment, and after they sold it, they did not pay him. There's been a lot of stuff that have happened since then. It's been, how long has it been? It's been over a year, right? Or close to a year?
We're going on 10 months now.
10 months. That's rough.
Yeah.
There's some crazy crap, so I'll let you explain what's going on because you know it a lot better than I do.
Yeah, so let me kind of like recap where we left off last time. So we last spoke back in November-ish timeframe. The whole purpose of me coming on was to pretty much say, look, this is something that has happened to me. Everyone in the community, be aware that this could happen to you if you're dealing with this particular dealer, or maybe a dealer that you need to have some due diligence with while you're doing a transaction, buying, selling, whatever the case is. I know that they were in possession of other vehicles and I wanted to help save those vehicles. Because of the video that was posted, it gained a lot of popularity within, I think, the next evening or maybe the same evening, I can't recall. I had about 4 or 5 phone calls into me, and there was an individual who came forward regarding a 1969 Camaro.
Yep.
And it was black with the red stripe on it with the red interior. He was like, hey, I was contacted by a few different people. My understanding is this and that has happened to you. They have 3 of my vehicles, a Camaro, a Ferrari, and a Rolls Royce. Probably saved the guy about $1 million worth of cars. He was able to contact these guys, get the vehicles that same night. I was really happy in that. He and I maintained communication here and there. Cool guy. That was awesome that the community came together, and I was happy that those cars were saved.
Some of the other people who are also victims reached out to you, and you've kind of got a group of you now that are kind of working together as well.
Yeah, so there was already a couple that we were in contact with, and then a couple of new ones came through. Essentially, they did come forward to speak to me about what had happened to them, so we can kind of spit back and forth some ideas on what they can maybe do to recover losses or, pursue what they are at a loss for. Since then, as I mentioned in the last video, that I went to the appropriate channels, went to the DMV, went to the Laguna Beach Police Department, provided all the evidence and information that I had. I mean, these guys were well aware of the actions that I was taking to ensure that I was going to recover my vehicle or the money or anything in general. After an investigation that took place by the Department of Motor Vehicles, the investigation that the Laguna Beach helped out with, they registered my vehicle as stolen. And then I went ahead and lawfully recovered my vehicle based on it being entered into the NCIS as a stolen vehicle. The person who was in possession of my vehicle, obviously not happy about that, went ahead and filed suit against me. There were some allegations that I quote unquote stole the vehicle. It's not likely and possible that I can steal my own vehicle when I'm the valid owner of the vehicle and have always been the valid owner of the vehicle. And there were 2 state departments that determined this in the last, week or two. There has been the criminal charges that have been brought on by the district attorney of Orange County onto Alpha Motive for, I think, 24 counts, felonies, which include grand theft auto. There was a grand theft of the monies. Then there's white collar crimes. So there's a full listing of that. It really just invalidates the claim that the person who was in possession of my vehicle has against me.
Justice Department of your state is saying that they've got enough evidence to prosecute these people and go to court over it. That was kind of the first big thing that happened with CNC Motors, is finally they brought charges, but it's interesting because this one, they came way faster.
When I was going through this process and I was very active in the investigation process with the DMV, I asked that question, is this going to take 2 years to
right?
And the person I was working with laughed, that was a little bit different in the sense that there was a lot more victims to sort through.
And it was really complicated. Money hidden everywhere, allegedly, and shell companies, allegedly, and all this stuff, right?
This was a little more straightforward in the sense that there were less victims, 6, 7, 8 months down the line, and things are moving along, I think, as expected. They were arraigned yesterday. I sent you the article about that.
For months now, the US Sun has been investigating allegations that brothers had been accused of stealing classic cars and pocketing hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Orange County District Attorney's Office has now decided to bring criminal charges against the pair. The Castro brothers were running a classic car business in Laguna Beach, California, called Alpha Motive Motors LLC, and were also sued by 2 alleged victims.
They showed up to the court masked. They had the media team out there taking photos and videos of them, trying to get a statement from them. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy from the perspective of, being the victim of a crime that was committed where, you're coming on and people are having their opinions and stuff like that. And then seeing like, okay, they did in fact break laws. They did do wrong. The things that I was saying were accurate. You can never really be sure, right? Because people have their sides of the story. I saw that a lot of people had comments about how they felt the transaction should have went. I saw a lot of people talk about escrows, which I literally in my messages with them were like, are we going to do an escrow? And I was told yes. So it's kind of funny that didn't happen, but I think there were a lot of red flags along the way. I think we talked about this in the last video. Price, undervalue, right?
Which is, that would be a weird thing, right? If you're negotiating to buy a car and they are super willing to take a huge discount, what's going on with that thing, right? Like not even that it's necessarily a scam or fraud. It's like, what's wrong with it?
Right.
Like, why are you willing to offload it so willingly,
The understating of the price on the fictitious title that they were having. That's actually one of the charges, believe it or not.
Really?
They have a charge that references knowingly offer or procure a false or forged document to be filed, registered, or recorded in a public office. This includes documents that could be legally filed if they were genuine titles.
Titles, right.
We talked about how there was like an offer to understate the sale price of the car on the fictitious title that they were going to have. And so that way he could save money on taxes.
Right. A side note, it is not directly related, but apparently they are cousins or something of that guy who won the Powerball.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why the media loves this, right? Is they don't even care about these guys. They only care about the Powerball guys loosely affiliated with them.
Edwin that won the Powerball, he's their cousin. And throughout this entire process, these brothers that owned Alpha Motive, they were well aware that this was circulating online. They knew that they were in some sort of trouble. Things were going to come crashing down at some point. I don't know that they thought this was going to happen as soon as it did. They're being kind of linked up to the cousin. They've been seen with him. There's photos with them. There's videos of them looking at car garages to buy, or go into business with one another. And it's kind of a bad look for that guy, Edwin.
The media just likes it because it gives it this element of like a little extra drama, right?
Yeah, no, definitely a little razzle dazzle for media stuff.
Right. It's kind of stupid because like every time I read those articles and they're focused so hard on the Powerball guy, and then it's like a tiny little bit about, oh, by the way, these other 2 guys who are criminals are going to court. And it's like, that's the point of the article. Like, what? Okay.
Things are in motion. I actually filed a civil suit against the brothers and also against the person who was in possession of my vehicle. It's basically something for seeking damages for me for what the brothers had done to me, and also seeking declaratory relief from the person who was in possession of my vehicle, continuing to state that he's a bona fide purchaser. We have black and white evidence that show that he's not, and he just keeps fighting it tooth and nail. And I'm not even sure if he knows that these guys have been, actually arraigned for these criminal charges. We brought this up to his attorney saying, hey, look, these departments have made classification of what has happened. And this report has been submitted to the district attorney. Like it's only a matter of time before it actually turns into charges, right? And we did reference, the whole CNC Motorsports thing. And the guy came on interview with you saying, Marcus thinks that this is like the seat. Dude, it's exactly the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
with the exception of there's less people involved. They weren't as savvy as that guy. And I didn't want to give him that compliment.
Right. That's the sad thing. It's like CNC was pretty sophisticated. This is pretty dumb.
Yeah. This is like some small time shit comparison to what that guy did. Like $8 million or something. Like that's insane.
No, he's they got him for like 50.
Oh, wow. Whether that guy Clay makes up for it or whether these brothers make up for it, I'm not really sure how that's viewed in the eye of the law, where you've done something wrong, you've hurt people. How do you come back from that? Like if you're settling with people along the way and it's like, months down the line, are you just given a slap on the wrist or are you going to be penalized for it, right?
We dealt with our own very small lawsuit recently, and it's interesting because even though the court sided in our favor, we still lost. The court dismissed all the case and reimbursed our legal fees entirely. But that will never take back how much time I lost, how much stress it was, how frustrating it was. The fact that I still had all these extra costs that aren't, accounted for, lost time, lost productivity, all this crap. It's impossible for the courts to ever bring that back and make me whole. This situation, it's impossible. I hate to say it, you will never be made whole.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a toll on me. 10 months of it's started
stressful, isn't it? It's really stressful.
Yeah, it was extremely stressful. I was like literally losing hair over it. That's a lot of money to have just lost. And I've got this guy who's like I'm trying to deal with like the two guys that committed like actual crimes like head on, and I've got this guy just like throwing pebbles at me from the side, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, like give it a
well
rest.
I mean, yeah, here you are, like my car just got stolen and now I have this other guy coming at me throwing lawsuits at me. I mean, just like insult to injury, right?
Yeah, and the irony, like I will say this, and I'm going to read it verbatim because it just made me laugh. So the day I recovered my car,
yeah,
I had already told the person who was in possession of it, hey, stop contacting me, man. Like you're harassing me. This is ridiculous. Like you're just not getting it. Like I've explained to you like all the due process and how similar this is to another case. And I was told basically that he was going to take the car to Mexico and do X, Y, Z and all this stuff. And I'm like, the evening that I recovered my car, and this is all coordinated with the team and the police and everything. Like, I don't know what he thought he was doing.
Like tow truck companies can't just go take a car without it being filed as stolen.
Right. I got 2 missed calls from him, and then he says, I just want to confirm, I get if you did it, it's fine, but did you have the car taken or was it actually stolen? If you sent someone, that's fine. I would just rather know, just so I know it wasn't legit stolen by someone random, because the car is gone. At this point, I'm going to assume it was you. So then I don't respond to him because I already told him, don't contact me. Like we haven't been in contact, right? There's no reason to. Like you have filed the suit, whatever the case is, or about to.
Yeah.
It's done. Like we don't need to talk. So what ended up happening was he contacted the police. Now, if you recall in that video, he says I contacted my attorney first thing. Mm-hmm. If you really thought a vehicle was stolen, why would you contact your attorney? Contacts his attorney, then he contacts the police. He files a report saying the vehicle was stolen. The vehicle was already registered stolen. He was listed as the person in possession of the vehicle. Right. So it's like they explained this to him. It's actually in the police report. And it's funny because they tell him this. And so
they'd be saying, hey, actually, you're the person who we have listed for this as stolen, and you're trying to say it's stolen.
So that's
weird.
Actually in the police report. It is actually in the police report. They basically, tell them this, and they're like, look, okay, so we hear that you may have made this purchase. That's fine. We'll go locate the vehicle if you say you have a tracking device. You had some air tags on the car. The air tag is what led them to the location of the vehicle where we were basically so there was a step where we were going to basically do the intake process with the police. The police end up showing up there. My team is there thinking that this is the team that they had contacted to actually do the intake process, but it was the person who was in possession of the vehicle. He shows up with the police, and it's actually the people that he called and not our people. And so basically, hey, we're going to need to just take the car right now. So we're going to still process it. I'm not going to release the car to that guy because he doesn't have any documentation that actually shows me that he actually this vehicle. He gets me on the phone. He's like, hey, Marcus, I understand you're not here and your team's here and stuff. We understand the process of the intake that we're going to need to do to get this marked as recovered. Your team can take possession of the vehicle once it's been processed properly. And so I asked him, what is it that I need to do? He gives me the instructions on what needs to happen once it gets to the impound. I get with my team after the car was impounded properly. They process it. They took photos of it, current state condition, all that stuff, just to show that there was no damages done, if there was any property in it, drugs, like whatever, right? I send all the information that's necessary to my team. My team recovers the vehicle, fees are paid, and we take the car and transport vehicle that I had lined up, takes the car back to California. He calls after he knows the vehicle was removed from the impound. He basically says that I am armed in the state of Texas, and I have stolen the vehicle not
From
only
impound.
from in front of his home, but I've also stolen it from the impound. So now,
you went full Gone in 60 Seconds.
yeah, full blown like Nicolas Cage, like. This guy did this and he's armed. And, that's the kind of stuff that would stress me out. It's like, at this point, this is kind of like endangering me, right?
Yeah.
Or endangering the people that are, involved in this.
The people you have helping you.
Right. So when the police come and, they're like, hey, we're going to take the car. We're not going to hand it to your team and just walk off with it. We need more proof, identification. He goes, never mind. I got it back. Fail. Good try. Waste of money. Just made things 10 times worse for yourself. Dumbass, I got my car. How is it spending money with a private investigator? Puts laughing emojis.
Yeah.
Ultimate end up with the car. He's taunting me at this point. He thinks he's taunting me. And I'm like reading this and like, this guy is like really immature, man. Like he could totally be a cool guy. We could have like worked on this thing together and figured something out, right? The persona that was put on in that video interview that you had done with him, it was very like cool, calm, and collected compared to, what I'm receiving when I'm getting battled messages from him and we're going back and forth. And he's like, I'm going to sue you for everything. At the end of the day, I received my vehicle. A suit was filed against me. The portion about there was a emergency hearing that was taking place. The attorney that he had basically sprung it on me. Like he knew that I didn't have representation in Texas. He basically sent me an email. Hey, I'm giving you notice that we're doing an emergency temporary restraining order hearing. And I'm like, you need to send me the information for that, the courtroom, the Zoom court, whatever the case is. My fear was they may try to do like a judgment because I'm not there, whatever the case. Right. I thought, Judge, look, the car is registered as stolen. Like I recovered my vehicle. I wasn't even served or anything properly. So there was all this like complication. And the judge was like, look, I'm going to do this one thing. For 14 days, Marcus, don't sell the car, don't transfer the title, don't do any of that stuff. I definitely could wash it. I definitely could drive it. I definitely could do everything else with that car besides sell it. That's what he said to me. So I just want to clarify that part. And I agreed to it. And so in the meantime, I had to find an attorney in Texas and whatnot, because my attorney in California is not, doesn't practice law, and Texas doesn't work like that. So at that 14-day mark, we and my team knew that they didn't actually pay the bond to secure that TRO. So it was invalidated. When my team showed up to the court date and his lawyer was there, and his lawyer was dumbfounded at the fact that it wasn't on the docket. And he was like, what's going on? And I had no idea. And we did get a notice that a bond needed to be paid, but it wasn't, or something along those lines. I don't know the whole deal, but the long story short is whatever they try to do wasn't enforceable. And basically that was that.
So you got your car back. What's the scoop now? So you still have a pending lawsuit against you?
Yeah, I guess got the car back.
You have a lawsuit against. Well, we're all the. There's a lot of stuff. So what are the current legal pieces?
Sure. Yeah. Got the car back. Made a ton of repairs to engine, suspension, clutch, like all kinds of stuff that they messed up. They put on personal miles and stuff while they had the car. There's a lawsuit against me from the person who was in possession of it. He's basically saying and claiming that I have stolen from him and that I have stolen from the impound. I mean, he and his attorney even made a demand letter to the impound lot saying that I was going to be showing up with fraudulent paperwork, fraudulent title. I have a civil suit against, the dealership and the person who was in possession of it. Just, he's not a bona fide purchaser. To be a bona fide purchaser, you have to have negotiated in good faith, right? And the bad faith happened when they had negotiations that led to talking about reducing and understating the price of the vehicle on a title that they didn't even have to reduce the tax burden. And then there's a criminal charges that are happening against the dealer right now. So they're not being charged as a dealer, they're actually being charged as individuals. So the state of California, they revoked their DMV seller's license or DMV their license.
Yeah, the dealership license.
All in all, the way it stands right now is, I came here in the first place as a victim of crimes that have happened to me, and I'm coming back here as that same individual, and it's further been identified by 3 different agencies, right? So, the state of California deemed this to be some criminal activity, and that's what it is. And we've got an individual who thinks otherwise, and it's almost like this feeling of, Well, I don't care if those guys did a criminal thing to you, Marcus. I know that I paid for something and I got a hell of a smoking deal on it and I want that thing back. I'm not really sure why there isn't like a collective effort to pursue the dealer, right?
Right.
With what they've done, right? We have enough evidence together where we can say, look, this is what's happened, right?
Do we know if he's filed any suits against Alpha Motive or against the brothers?
You know, it's funny that you say that because the suit that was filed was basically against the dealer, myself, the automotive recovery company, and that's it. People were served, but it's been primarily like just dealing with me. I'm not really sure of any communication that's taking place with Alpha Motive people's attorneys. He's trying to commingle me as a criminal in the sense of, okay, Marcus stole from me. He is also got them as an agent. They're technically his agent because he hired them to sell a vehicle. I don't know about all that, man. Like, just because I hire someone to mow my lawn and they happen to run over, like, I don't know, someone's dog's leg or something, doesn't mean that, like, I'm part of that crime or anything, right?
Right. You didn't conspire to mow over the neighbor's dog.
Like, there was like real intent here behind what was done, and the intent is visible in the text transcripts. It's like very black and white, and that's why I feel that this case moved on very quickly, right?
Just like CNC Motors, and I said this from the start, there's two victims every time one of these things happen. There's the buyer and the seller. Both are screwed. The thing that to me is interesting about your situation is that they acted fast. The government agencies acted very quickly, and the fact that you were able to get the car registered as stolen, the other person said that they noted that I said, and I told you this originally, I said, you're probably going to be screwed because the law favors the buyer. But your situation is different because you actually have the car registered as stolen. 0 people in the CNC Motors case were able to get their cars registered as stolen until criminal charges were brought. So you're talking years later. So that changes the situation.
So these people have committed crimes. There's 24 counts of these felony crimes. They're not misdemeanors. Thank goodness that they're not like violent crimes, right? But they get to walk around freely. They were arraigned, but they weren't taken into custody. So the court orders defendant to be released on own recognizance on conditions that they do not associate or participate in vehicle sales or vehicle business or pendency of this case, and violate no laws and make all court appearances. So they have these criminal charges pending, right? There's an abundance of them, but they get to walk around freely until they are proven guilty.
Right.
Right.
Let's say they somehow had the money and they gave it back to them, gave it back to the person that was trying to buy the car. Would that settle everything?
I don't know, you know, and it's funny.
That's assuming they even could get the money somehow.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I did notify them upon my recovering the vehicle, saying to them like, hey, I want you to know that I recovered my vehicle lawfully. The person who was in possession of the vehicle did in fact pay you, and a transaction actually legitimately happened between you two. Then it looks like you're going to need to send the money back to that guy. You need to make that guy whole, whatever the case is. I never got a response to that message. 2 months down the line, one of the Castro brothers, he contacts me and he's like, hey, what's your attorney's info? You know, we want to try to talk to your attorney and the guy who's in possession of your vehicle's attorney. We want to see if we can come to a resolution. Sure, buddy. Send him the info. Didn't hear shit for like 2 months. It's like now we're getting pinged. You know, they got arraigned, and I think things are kind of crashing down pretty quickly here. And so they're kind of panicking. I don't think that they're legitimately trying to settle anything. And here's why. Their initial offer was so low. It was like an exchange of hands, like nothing happened. Hey, we're willing to do this and do that. But it was like the bare minimum that didn't account for attorney's fees, like the aggravation that's caused everybody, like the repairs that had to be made to the vehicle, like just everything as a whole. It was like a, I don't know, like a thoughtless like offer. And I told my attorneys, don't even bother responding. Let them sit on it. I don't think that they're coming from a good place because it's been 10 months. If they were going to make right on things, that they would have done this a long time ago.
Right. If they would have had the money, they could have just paid right then and there, and it would have been all taken care of.
Right. And I think the irony of all this is that, like, realistically, I'm fully confident in saying this. Like, I have my car back. I have always had my title. The law is like on the side of the victim. Like, they have charges press against them for the criminal actions that they've taken. I think that at the end of the day, like, they just need to make right with whatever they've done. They need to figure something out quick. I think the ideal situation, for me would be if the person who filed the suit against me removed me and pursued them directly. Yeah. I'm not really sure where the gain is for coming after me. Like, it's already been established by the 3 agencies, like we talked about, that they committed some crimes. The vehicle was stolen, in fact.
From an outsider's perspective, and again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know what I'm talking about, but if I was the person who tried to buy your car, I now see that on paper your car was registered as stolen. Like, that to me says, all right, my avenue to pursue recovery of the car is basically dead. In my opinion, I would be going after the money. Give me my money back, okay? I bought a product or a good, and that good wasn't delivered.
Right, you would think. Now, the funny part is we kind of talked about where the person contacted the police once again when the vehicle was on a transport to California. They actually had the sheriff in that part of the state of Texas pull over the transport.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
The crazy thing is, in that police report, it basically says that Marcus is armed, he's dangerous, and he's stolen the vehicle from the impound yard. Deputy basically pulls over the transport, and the transport driver, he's aware of the situation that, has happened, and I told him, and
he's got to have the night of his life.
Kind of anticipated some weird shit going down like that. Lo and behold, it did. So basically, he provides him his credentials. He's like, here, this is the owner of the vehicle. Here's his contact phone number. He gets me on the phone. Deputy speaks with me on the phone. He's like, hey, look, there's an individual that's alleging that you actually stole this vehicle out of the impound yard in Texas. I need you to do me a favor. I'm going to have you send me all the things that you gave to that, impound yard or whatever to validate that you actually removed it lawfully and all that stuff. You got it.
Sure.
I had sent everything to him because I already had it like on a speed send because I sent it to my team to get it out for me, right? So he validated everything. He contacted the impound. They said, no, we released it to this individual on behalf of Marcus. And so, we're all good. It checked out. It was processed and it's listed as recovered in the system. I'm not joking you. The police report said, I told so-and-so that this is just a bunch of poo-poo. That he was not going to remove the vehicle from the transport.
Yeah, the fact that the cops, that right there tells you the cops pulled over the car or the transporter and didn't do anything about it to stop them.
Yeah, so the deputy basically said like, hey, this might happen to you along the way.
Keep these documents ready.
Yeah, keep these documents ready, basically. And I did that for the transport driver. I was like, hey, if this happens again, like, here's all the data.
I hope you gave the transfer a big tip because, man, he could have gotten shot or like crazy crap because the fact that they're saying, oh, you were armed and whatever, that's dangerous.
At the same time, the person is now alleging that I stole on Facebook and Instagram, and he's put out a $10,000 bounty.
Jeez. And so you have vigilantes pulling over the truck.
Yeah, and I did tip the guy, like, very well.
Good. Because I'm thinking that poor transporter, he had no idea what he's getting into, man.
My insurance company told me to beat it, basically.
Yeah, that's the crappy thing about these situations. Insurance companies won't pay you out.
I shouldn't have a suit filed against me for being a victim of something, right? Like, you got to go after the right people. I think that's like the bottom line message here for him, the viewers, like all that. I think more for educational purposes as well is like, be aware of the transactions that you're entering.
Well, there you have it. That's an update on the situation with Marcus and his GT500. I hate all this legal stuff. There's never any winners, really. It's just who's the least loser, I guess. I feel bad for both him and Carlos. They're both victims of this Alpha Motive dealership. Clearly, the California government is pursuing criminal charges against them, the guys who owned Alpha Motive. So pretty strong sign that, hey, stuff got pretty messed up. And I'm really actually kind of impressed they moved this quickly compared to CNC. But then again, CNC was so complicated. I mean, it was just so many victims and so many layers. So that actually is in court, I think, now or soon. Stay safe out there. Find reputable dealers. Do your homework. Feel free to check out our dealership, NG Supercars. We do appreciate you guys' support, and we're going to keep doing car stuff. So like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. It's going to be sweet.